Well, welcome to Athelhampton in the heart of Thomas Hardy's Dorset. And Hardy courted his youthful loves in the nearby lanes, and later on, after he married, he brought both his wives here, one and then his second wife, on quite a number of occasions. He wrote poem after poem about his loves, the pain of rejection, the joys of acceptance, the tragedy of loss. 10 lovers, 50 poems. Brilliant head teacher Tryphena Sparks. Hardy's tragic first wife, writer Emma Gifford. His second wife, writer and researcher Florence Dugdale. Mrs. Scott Siddons, the famous Shakespearean actress. Eliza Nichols, his first fiancée, who he left for her younger sister. 10 lovers, 50 poems. So Alison, tell us what's going to go on in this video, and then in the series that follows, what's going to happen then?
Well, you're going to see some of the key events in Hardy's love life, and also hear some of the excerpts of a few of his poems, and then the whole story will be unfolded in later series of videos.
Well, let's start when Hardy was a teenager, just round the corner from here, and he fell in love with Lisby Brown with her bay red hair, but he was too nervous even to kiss her.
But Lisby Brown, I let you slip, shaped not a sign, touched never your lip with lip of mine, lost Lisby Brown.
When he wasn't pining after Lisby Brown, young Thomas Hardy was actually studying to be an architect. But that brought him back to Athelhampton, where his father was actually restoring some of the stonework here, and he was helping design the little new church just over the road, which happened to be next door to the school where his young cousin, Tryphena Sparks, was studying.
And that actually, the poems that he wrote later on about the love affair they had afterwards, some years later, are some of his most passionate.
Yes.
In years defaced and lost, two sat here, transport tossed, lit by a living love the wilted world knew nothing of.
Hardy left Tryphena in Dorset and went off to London, where his love life became quite complicated. So he was actually going out with Eliza Nichols, who worked as a lady's maid. He was going out with her for several years, and they actually became engaged. But then when that relationship ended, he started going out with her younger sister, Mary Jane. His poetry speaks with Eliza's voice, who he imagines wanting her sister to die.
This love puts all humanity from me. I can but maledict her, pray her dead, for giving love and getting love of thee, feeding a heart that else mine own had fed.
With Hardy still in London, he finished his relationship with the younger sister, Mary Jane Nichols, and he began a new relationship with a very famous Shakespearean actress called Mary Frances Scott Siddons. And appropriately, he wrote his poems, one of them, in the very famous sonnet form that, of course, Shakespeare loved to use.
Could that man be this I, unknowing you? When now the knowing you is all of me, and the old world of then is now anew, and purpose no more what it used to be, a thing of formal journey work, but due to springs that then were sealed up utterly.
But Mary Frances Scott Siddons was married. So what happened when her husband found out? We'll explain in the later videos.
Hardy actually returned then back to Dorset, and he reconnected with his young cousin Tryphena Sparks, and their romance began to take off.
Since I danced upon this leas with one who kindled gaily love's fitful ecstasies.
Hardy's poems about Fina spill over with passion, and their relationship lasted a couple of years. But eventually it was torn apart by forces outside their control, and they each ended up marrying somebody else. 20 years later, Fina died tragically young, and Hardy mourned her in verse.
Not a line of her writing have I, not a thread of her hair, no mark of her late time as dame in her dwelling, whereby I may picture her there.
Well, after their separation, Hardy fell in love again, and that was with what was going to be his new wife, Emma Gifford. They met down in Cornwall, which he calls by the old Arthurian name of Lioness. And we will hear some of the excerpts from the poems about when he first met her.
My radiance rare and fathomless, when I came back from Lioness with magic in my eyes.
Well, a long courtship followed, and then the couple were married in 1874 when Hardy was in his mid-30s. And at first, they were gloriously happy. And Hardy wrote some lovely poems, especially about the time when they stayed in Sturminster Newton, about 15 miles from here, right by the river. He actually called it a 2-year idyll.
Yes, such it was. Just those 2 seasons unsought, sweeping like summertide wind on our ways, moving as straws, heart quick as ours in those days.
But sadly, over the years, the marriage ran into trouble.
A cowed apparition came pushing between,
And her notes seemed to sigh, and the lights to burn pale, as a spell numbed the scene.
Well, the cowled apparition in this poem is actually Emma's growing mental illness, which actually affected Hardy quite deeply. But he was way ahead of his time with his sympathetic and understanding reaction to her.
Well, he was now in his 50s and, of course, a famous novelist and very much courted by society. So he was invited, along with Emma, to dine here at Athelhampton on a number of occasions by the new young owner, Alfred Cart de Lafontaine. But behind that outward facade, with that unhappiness, Hardy actually met another love, Florence Henniker.
But in an echo of his previous coyness with Lisby Brown, he still couldn't bring himself to kiss her.
Then the downpour ceased, to my sharp sad pain, and the glass that had screened our forms before flew up, and out she sprang to her door. I should have kissed her if the rain had lasted a minute more.
Still miserable with Emma, Hardy began to fantasize about divorce.
A quick divorce, she will make him hers and I wed mine. So time writes all things in long, long years, or rather she by her bold design.
But divorce was legally difficult and socially dangerous. And when Hardy took Florence Henniker, who was also married, to an inn where the staff thought they were lovers, she made clear that their relationship was only going to be platonic.
And we were left alone, as love's own pair. Yet never the love light shone between us there.
So Hardy struggled on with Emma, but he didn't give up hope of finding a partner. And in his 60s, in 1905, he met a research assistant by the name of Florence Dugdale.
So another Florence. And, you know, in the poem, Alison, that he wrote about her, he uses this amazing alliteration, 3 L's, which to my mind leaves no doubt about how passionate he felt for her.
Absolutely.
And I saw the large, luminous, living eyes regard me in fixed inquiring wise.
But in this new relationship, Hardy had no hesitation in kissing.
We kissed at the barrier, and passing through she left me, and moment by moment got smaller and smaller, until to my view she was but a spot.
Well, Florence Dugdale became a key part of Hardy's life, and she often visited him at Maxgate, their home near here, and it was a home that Hardy and Emma were still sharing, although by this time Emma was spending a great deal of time upstairs in a small attic room.
Well, this arrangement continued for 7 years until Emma passed away in 1912. The way was now clear for Hardy to marry Florence Dugdale, but first he produced an outpouring of grief and emotion in a series of eulogies.
Woman much missed, how you called to me, saying that now you are not as you were when you had changed from the one who was all to me, but as at first, when our day was fair.
Of all these poems, the one that I find personally most moving is one called The Circular, which deals with a whole panoply of leaflets and adverts that arrive on Hardy's desk after Emma has died.
As legal representative, I read a missive, not my own, on new designs the senders give for clothes, in tints as shown.
Well, Florence Dugdale may have been taken aback by the sheer intensity of that emotional outpouring about Hardy's deceased wife, but she was able to move in with him, and then after a year's mourning, they were able to get married early in 1914.
Yes, but a few months later, when they were dining here at Athelhampton, it was on the very night when a telegram was received during dinner that the First World War had been declared.
Well, their marriage was to continue until Hardy's death in 1928. And he celebrated the happy ordinariness of it in this lovely poem, A Jog-Trot Pair, which actually has the rhythm of a horse and cart kind of jogging up and down.
Who could those common people be, of days the plainest, barest? They were we. Yes, happier than the cleverest, smartest, rarest.
Well, the actors reading and performing all the poems are from the new Hardy players, who are the direct successors to the original Hardy players who performed in front of Thomas Hardy himself. And one of those original Hardy players, Gertrude Bugler, well, Hardy felt fond of her and knew her well enough to write poetry about her a few years before his death. And we'll explore that in some of the videos later in the series. Well, this is very much a Dorset production. Everybody's based locally. The directors, Howard Payton and Alison Payton. The cameraman, Ian Condon, and of the sound recordist, Andy Worth. Obviously the team here at Athelhampton with Gemma Childs and Owen Davis, and also Mark Chutter, who is chair of the Thomas Hardy Society. And in some of these videos, we're delighted to be joined by up-and-coming young actors from Dorchester Youth Theatre. Also, all the wonderful music for the production is performed by the well-known Dorset folk music specialist Tim Laycock, accompanied by a talented group of local musicians. Well, please subscribe to support us and to get updates on each video as it's released. Remember, each poem, it has its own video, so the whole story builds up across all the series. 10 lovers, 50 poems.